Hey everyone, this is Scrap Computer here. This video is going to cover ability animation cancelling. Much like my kiting guide which mentioned auto attack cancelling, which this guide will strongly mimic because they're exactly the same concept. Now let's get into it. Abilities also have animations which you can cancel, meaning you get the ability to both chase and of course kite as a caster a lot better. You get a movement command in between your abilities. I'll show you a quick comparison, then I'll cover the basics and move on very quickly. Non-kiting casting example. Full kiting casting example. Just look at the difference this makes and my ability to both kite and chase someone. It's absolutely phenomenal. Now let's get into it. First, you must know what kiting is. So what exactly is kiting? Kiting can go by a few names: stutter stepping or walking, animation cancelling, and of course my personal favourite, kiting. I'm going to be using the term kiting, and this is also going to extrapolate out to counter kiting as well, which I'll cover. Kiting is a term used to describe a scenario when a champion can attack and use spells on another freely, whilst being just outside their enemy's attack range. We use movement commands to achieve this feat. This provides us also with the ability to constantly pump out damage while running away and repositioning and still have use of our abilities. This is shown below. Look how much difference it makes to our damage and more importantly, safety. This is not a technique for only AD carries, it's a technique for casters as well. This is an extremely important technique you must master if you want to be a good mid laner. If you can't, you'll find yourself in a lot of trouble while playing at every level of play, as you won't have the ability to reposition or retreat while doing damage, which is most of what a caster will do in teamfights. I'm going to cover the wrong way of kiting first and the very common way most people actually play in the lower echelons of play, and so you'll know from your mistakes and of course give you a strong understanding of how this entirely works. So, incorrect kiting steps. Ability animation kiting, which can be used to kite and chase, works by, of course, breaking your animation of an ability and replacing it with another step, simply. So, to get to grips in this, I'm going to show you how the ability animation normally works, which is incorrect. The most important thing to note is the entire ability animation is not needed. I'll say it again, the entire ability animation is not needed on 99% of abilities. I don't mean to be condescending, I just want to pump it in there, guys. There are only a few mandatory parts of the animation on 90% of casters. I'll show you which are and which are not needed by showing you a normal casting on Annie, a very pictorial sort of example. Step number 1, preparation lock on the champion, mandatory. This is the moment you click and use your ability. The client registers which champion you wish to use the ability on, or of course for a lot of casters, the place you want the ability to be used. Like for example with Annie's W. This step is shown below. This is pointing towards the champion, or of course pointing towards the place you want to use the ability. Not very distinctive but important. Step number 2, preparing the firing mechanism, mandatory. In this case shown below, it's Annie putting out her hands ready to fire off the ability. This is the preparation before firing the projectile. It will change depending upon the champion and is a very important step. Look closely and you'll see the required animation. Number 3, the projectile leaving your champion, mandatory. This last step is absolutely mandatory. The last part of the animation is the actual firing of the projectile. This requires the projectile to be completely away from your champion before it finishes, or the ability to be cast on where it's meant to be at, for example with the Karthus Q. Remember, certain champions have instant casts like once again Annie's W or Neve's ultimate. A big note is that these can be broken even earlier. As soon as the ability is used, you can literally move. As soon as that is cast and the fire is about to leave or Neve's ultimate's on the ground, you can move immediately. There's no leaving animation. Although with Annie's Q, for example, as seen below, I have to actually wait till the Q is actually left my hands and then I can move on to the next step. But a note is instant casts like Annie's W I can use and basically leave immediately as soon as it's been cast, because there's no projectile leaving after the ability has been used. Just a big note, apologies, I can't really extrapolate this out, it depends on each champion. Know what's an instant and what's a projectile cast. Step number 4, the projectile travelling to your enemy. Optional. This last step does have an animation which most people don't even know about. Once the projectile has been fired, the animation, if not cancelled, will do as shown below. It will continue to resort back to the original champion standby animations. So for this, it's Annie just putting her hands back down and standing on the spot like an idiot. It's an animation that will put you back to your normal stance. So it's kind of wasted. We don't really need to go back to that normal stance. If not prompted otherwise, the normal action will be shown as below, which I've already mentioned is putting your hands down. It's wasting time. New step number 4, movement command. The fourth step is not needed at all, so what all good players say to themselves is, why am I wasting time standing here? Standing till the end of an animation which has no advantage. In this time I can travel instead of step number 4, ending the animation. So as you can see below, by moving a little you reset the ability animation and literally remove the step. So instead of you going back to your standby mode, you break that standby mode animation and you start walking, which breaks the end of the animation, allowing you to move. And you can remove this fourth step with a literal step or two on the map, which of course allows you to move. You can cut and break the useless end of the animation off as we don't need it and replace it with a movement animation. So as soon as the projectile leaves your champion, you're free to move a small distance. Congratulations, you're officially kiting as a caster. But let's cover the correct kiting steps. In this example I'm using Annie to show how to kite as her animation is simple and very apparent. I'll be giving clicking directions for perfect kiting. The left will show the steps in the animation and the right will show you the literal mouse movements. As you can see, I fire my cue and let the first 3 steps take place, and the instant the fire leaves my hands I move towards the scuttle, cancelling the useless end of the animation by clicking on the ground where I need to go in the general direction. As soon as this happens, Annie repositions back to normal. I fire my W after. Look close and you can see how the animation requires time to reset the fire. As I've mentioned, it's a very small time, but the reset when you walk will cancel the end of the W animation usually. In this time you must master the ability to move in between these few end seconds on step number 4. As soon as the ability has been used, you have to break that animation, walk 1 or 2 steps, then use another. You have to master this. So the 4 steps are: number 1, preparation lock on the champion. Click on the champion you wish to attack with the ability. Number 2, the firing mechanism. In this case it's Annie putting her hands out. This is a waiting period. Move your mouse to where you want to move next. Literally the spot you wish to click to move to after the next step has been complete. Number 3, the projectile leaving your champion. In this step it's simply waiting and hovering over the spot you wish to move to. As soon as the projectile is left, use step number 4. Take 1 to 3 steps. Click in the direction you wish to travel, put your mouse, and this will start you travelling, and then put your mouse back over the enemy champion, ready for step number 1 again. After this, go back to step number 1, and that's it guys. Preparation lock, fire mechanism, projectile leaving, and then move. The animation is different for every single champion in the game, and some champions have smoother animations than others, and some most importantly have instantaneous casts. Annie's W once clicked will immediately use the ability, like it'll immediately go bang, ability used. This means that as soon as it's been used, as soon as you've clicked that button and the fire is even slightly left your hands, you can break the animation, because it's an instant cast. Whereas Annie's Q on the other hand has to actually wait for the projectile to leave. The same with Annie's ultimate, it's got a slight instant cast. You can go instant and then move immediately as soon as Timbers has been dropped, because it instantly will proc towards the ground you want it going on. This is very important to distinguish the 2 types of abilities. Instant casts can be broke a lot earlier. You can basically break them like a second earlier, and obviously projectile casts can't be broken as early. They've got to actually wait for the projectile to leave. With ground orientated casts, you've got to wait till the ability actually appears in the ground, then leave. The timing in your abilities never gets any faster, so once you've got it down, you're good. It's very, very easy to kite as a caster in comparable terms to an AD carry who's got to compensate for attack speed increases constantly, whereas a caster, level 1 Q and level 5 Q on Annie is no faster, so once you've got the ability down, you've learned how to do this, it's very easy. A massive note just before I end this is the Scuttle is by far the best the best camp really to test this on. As Scuttle will constantly run away and run towards you in the right circumstances, you can generally use it to kite. Also remember to practice kiting both away and towards the Scuttle, but I'm going to cover this in a future video. And that's it for the video, guys. If you like it, dislike it, dislike it. If you like the content, you think it's really useful, you can subscribe. And if you think it's horrible and I'm completely wrong and this is the total wrong way to do it and it's really bad quality and it's Arthur's fault, you can unsub. I'm totally fair, guys. I also stream at Twitch TV, guys. I try to do an educational oriented stream, trying to teach people as much as possible. And of course, we have as much fun as we can. That's also in the low bar in the description. Besides that, guys, as always, have an absolutely great day and best of luck in the Rift.